Imagine a time in West Africa, long before European explorers set foot on its shores, when a vast and powerful empire shimmered with gold. This wasn't just a kingdom. It was an economic powerhouse, a center of culture and trade that commanded respect across the Sahara. This is the story of the Ghana Empire. Our journey begins around the 4th century, in the region between the Senegal and Niger rivers, modern-day southeastern Mauritania and western Mali. Here, the Sanink people, a Mandi-speaking group, laid the foundations of what would become one of Africa's most influential empires. But what made this land so special? The answer lies in two simple yet vital commodities, salt and gold. The Ghana Empire was strategically located. To the north lay the vast Sahara Desert, a source of precious salt from mines like Tagaza. To the south, in the Bambouk and Bure regions, were some of the richest gold fields in the world. The kings of Ghana didn't control the gold mines directly, but they controlled the trade routes. They were the ultimate middlemen, and their position was the key to their immense wealth. Imagine the scene. Long camel caravans, sometimes numbering in the thousands, trekking for months across the punishing desert sands. These caravans were led by Berber and Arab traders from North Africa. They brought slabs of salt, which was literally worth its weight in gold in the sub-Saharan region where it was scarce, and essential for preserving food and replenishing body fluids in the hot climate. They also brought cloth, copper, tools, and books. As these caravans entered the Ghana Empire, they were met with a highly organized system. The king imposed a strict tax on every single item that crossed his borders. He levied a tax on goods coming in, and another, even heavier tax on goods going out. The most valuable export, of course, was gold. The Sanink people had a genius system for this. All gold nuggets found in the empire belonged exclusively to the king. They were stockpiled in the royal treasury, creating an incredible reserve of wealth and keeping the market value of gold high. Ordinary people were only allowed to trade in gold dust. This clever economic policy ensured the king's power and the empire's stability. The capital city, believed to be Koumbi Saleh, was a marvel of its time. It was actually two separate towns situated a few miles apart. One town was the bustling commercial center, where the North African merchants lived. It was a city of stone houses and mosques, filled with scholars, lawyers, and religious leaders. This was the hub of international trade. The other town was the royal residence, the heart of the empire's power. Here, the king lived in a grand palace, a complex of domes and castles surrounded by a protective wall. It was described by visiting Arab geographers like al-Bakri in the 11th century as a place of incredible splendor. He wrote of the king adorned in gold jewelry, with horses draped in gold-threaded cloth and guard dogs wearing collars of gold and silver. The king held court in a golden pavilion, surrounded by 10 pages holding shields and gold-mounted swords. This was a display of power and wealth designed to awe visitors and subjects alike. The king of Ghana wasn't just a rich ruler. He was the spiritual and political leader of his people, the commander-in-chief of a formidable army. Al-Bakri reported that the king could field an army of 200,000 soldiers, including 40,000 archers. This military strength was crucial for protecting the trade routes from bandits, enforcing tax collection, and expanding the empire's influence over neighboring states. Conquered chiefs were allowed to rule their own lands, but they had to pay tribute to the Ghana king, further swelling his treasury. The society of the Ghana Empire was structured in a matrilineal system, meaning the king's successor was not his own son, but the son of his sister. This ensured the royal bloodline remained pure and prevented internal power struggles among the king's children. While the ruling class and traders interacted heavily with Muslims from the north, many of the Sanink people maintained their traditional animist beliefs, worshipping a variety of gods and spirits connected to nature. The king himself, though he employed Muslim advisors and scribes, was seen as the chief priest of this traditional faith, linking him directly to the spiritual well-being of his kingdom. For centuries, this system worked flawlessly. The Ghana Empire flourished, becoming a beacon of prosperity and stability in West Africa. Its gold funded the growth of cities and learning centers across North Africa and even into Europe. The term Ghana, which originally was the king's title meaning warrior king, became so synonymous with the region's wealth that the entire empire was named after it. The land itself was known to its people as Wagadou. But no empire lasts forever. By the end of the 11th century, cracks began to appear. One major factor was the rise of the Almoravids, a zealous Muslim dynasty from the north. Driven by religious fervor and a desire to control the lucrative trans-Saharan trade for themselves, the Almoravids launched attacks on Ghana. In 1076, they captured the capital, Koumbi Saleh. Although Ghana's rule was eventually restored, the invasion disrupted the trade routes, weakened the king's authority, and created instability. Internal pressures also mounted. Subject states, seeing the central power falter, began to rebel and break away, chipping at the empire's foundations. The delicate balance of trade had been shattered. Furthermore, environmental factors played a role. Centuries of intensive grazing and farming, coupled with increasing drought, led to desertification. The land grew less fertile, making it harder to support the large population and the powerful army. The final blow came from one of Ghana's former subject peoples, the Soso. Under their ambitious leader, Sumanjuru Kanti, the Soso conquered what was left of Ghana in the early 13th century. But their rule was short-lived. A new power was rising to the south, led by a prince named Sundiata Keita. He would defeat the Soso and go on to forge an even larger and more famous empire, the Mali Empire, which would inherit and expand upon Ghana's legacy of wealth and trade. Though the Ghana Empire itself faded into history, its legacy is monumental. It was the first of the great West African trading empires, creating a blueprint for governance, economics, and international relations that would be followed for centuries. It demonstrated that an African kingdom could build immense wealth and power through sophisticated control of trade, long before the age of European colonialism. The stories of its golden court and sprawling cities, passed down by Arab scholars and through the oral traditions of West African griots, inspired awe for generations. Today, the modern nation of Ghana, though located far to the southeast of the ancient empire, chose its name upon independence in 1957. It was a powerful act of honoring this incredible African legacy, a symbol of a rich and glorious past.